Welcome. Hey everyone. I hope everybody is doing good today. Welcome to another episode of Inspire Resilience with your man, with your boy, Gronkjaer 27. So feel free to take a deep breath as we dive in to today's podcast. But hey, people, today I am very excited to give you a story about myself. So today's podcast, I thought a lot of what I'm going to call it. So I call it From Struggle to Strength, a journey of resilience. So thank you. Feel free. Get your coffee if you're working, chill out, be cozy. Let's dive in. A lot of people been asking me about my life and stuff like that. I was actually like excited to I can't give you my whole life story. Like it's a lot of story. If I started doing that, it would be a lot of things. But it's a small journey from how I got here to where I've come from. So, like I always say, inspire before you expire. Today is a good day for a good day. So this is deeply personal. Hi, so this is very personal for me. I'm gonna be talking, even though I'm excited about it, I'm gonna be talking lessons and laws of my journey, like from coming to the USA as a kid to dealing with addiction, mental health struggles, and even running into the legal system. But through it all, I've come to understand the true meaning of winning, not in a traditional sense, but in the way we as a community, as people, as human beings, as mankind, find our way back to ourselves. So I'll start at the beginning on my journey. I'll start at the beginning. When I first came to the USA, I was still a kid. I didn't really know what to expect. My family and I kind of moved here looking for better opportunities, just you and me, like so many other migrants out here. So I had hopes of building a better life. I remember feeling out of place. It's a new culture, different accents, you can tell I still have an accent. Didn't understand no cultures out here, still don't do understand some, but I can say that I've delved into a lot of culture out here, so I find myself still like living, even though I'm African Kenyan, I'm still living here. I have adapted to different cultures too. Yeah, so if you've been in the diaspora, anywhere you are at, whether you've been abroad, you can understand that like there's different cultures and diversity. So, anyways, I was determined to fit in. I struggled with the language. I felt like a fish out of water in this huge abyss, huge country. Hey, America is huge, let me tell you, my friends. But I wasn't gonna make those differences hold me back. And for a while, I didn't, went to school, I was, work school. Like, let me tell you guys, America sometimes doesn't even have time for friends and having fun and whatever. That's why a lot of people sit here and you hear they have mental health issues or depression or stuff like that. Because like a lot of people they go through it and like you will never understand because you're just working, you're just going to school, you just it's endless, it's an endless cycle, you're just stuck in a endless this kind of endless cycle and stuff. So yeah, so that's how I felt. So that was me as a young kid, that was me. I was just running and running and running and running and going to school, and for a while everything was working out fine. So, anyways, it felt good, man. The money was just coming in, But as a young kid, like I was like, what to do with this money? Like I've never had all this money in my life. I just came from a poor background and stuff like that. Anyways, but life, as usual, has a way of throwing some curveballs for you. You know what I'm saying? Like that's when, like I remember my dad dying, and that's when everything started like unraveling, and I was like, whoa, like okay, like what do I do? And for a while, like I was stuck up in something I really didn't understand because I didn't know how to cope with it as a young kid, with all these finances, with all this being busy, with all this grief and stuff like that. But that's how it actually happened for me. And those small things, like struggling with my mental health, That's how it started. And then I didn't know how to talk about it. Like our culture, like we really don't think we have issues. Like, and especially being born in a culture where as a man, as a boy child, like, you don't know how to talk about it. So, but especially when everything outside, it looked perfect. Deep down inside, it was heavy. It was like, when you work and you're doing all that stuff, but everything looks fine, but deep down inside, everything is not fine. So at first it was something I could control, and then later on I began falling into these patterns of self-destruction and behavior, and it was hard to admit to myself. I even fell into addiction with alcohol, and stuff like that. Anyways, I could keep the balance between the life and school and work and my private life and relationships and all that stuff. But the addiction kind of took over, So I remember I was feeling low if I wasn't doing anything, like on the weekends, let's go party. But deep down inside, that was still like, addiction in a way. So, and then when that started to interfere with my life, I started feeling stuck, like really stuck. Like nothing else was making sense. Couldn't cope with this grief. I couldn't cope with a different culture. I couldn't cope with everything that was being thrown at me as a young age. So, but it also was not just the addiction. It was the mental health thing too. Like, the stress, the anxieties, the depression, the all that stuff, confusion, like all these feelings like piling up. I didn't even know how to make sense of them. I'll be honest with you. Sometimes I don't like. And then, like I was saying, our culture, we have a stigma. Like we don't, the Kenyan culture, mostly the African culture, we try not to talk to other people about it because this is considered, in my terms, a stigma. I think that's the word I'm looking for. But then, the shame coming from especially going like, oh yeah, I have mental health issues or I have addiction issues. That stigma, like, we come from a background where asking for help isn't or wasn't always seen to be the right thing to do. See if I'm making any sense. Like, for some people who are in recovery, you will understand this. Like, you will understand what I'm talking about, like, what I'm trying to drive home. Like, it's okay to ask for help. But see, like, let's going back to my story. I was young, I couldn't ask for help and stuff like that. But eventually, the weight of everything, the weight of everything kind of got too heavy for me. Sorry, I'm laughing because I remember the legal system kind of got involved. And yeah, now on top of adding the stress I was going through and stuff like that, the legal system ended up, it ended up taking that to me and stuff. I didn't recognize myself. I found myself caught in a cycle of mistakes through the legal system, from, all this, whatever I was going on. And that's where, like, everything was for me, like, man, it's not making no sense. Like, it added up to everything I was going through, like. So that was a hard part for me. I remember I was stuck up in jail, processes. Like, anyways, in short, what I'm saying is, excusing my mess, I wasn't perfect. And this is where I feel like my resilience came through. And this is what I owe God and the people that supported me. Like, I had family that was supporting me, I had some friends who were supporting me. I actually had some people from the legal system supporting me and showing me that I can still make it, I can still go through it. I had all these resources, and then that's where I guess my and I started understanding myself better, because no matter how many times I fell, I never stayed down, and I never stayed down. It wasn't easy. It's still not easy. I'm not gonna sit here and preach to the choir and preach and talk and tell you it's easy. It wasn't easy. It's never been easy. It's never gonna be easy. That's why my resilience. That's why I call this inspire resilience. Every day I wake up, I have to inspire that mindset, like, that stoic mindset, that wisdom, that discipline, that self-control. And that's why this is my journey. Everybody else has their own journey. It wasn't easy, like I'm saying, it didn't happen overnight. It has never happened overnight, but I know deep down there has to be more than this. There still has to be more than this. There is always a way out, so I started looking for help. I took that first step, going for treatment, going for, like, going to the legal places that the same people from the legal system that I was like, oh, I don't want to talk to this judge, I don't want to talk to these attorneys, to these prosecutors, to this other. I still with probations, all that. I went to them, like, and I'm like, man, that's how I started navigating and figuring out the barriers, breaking, I call it breaking those barriers, those mindset, breaking that imagination, that all that. Taking that first step, I got into support groups. I just started talking to people who care, and that's how, for me, I'm able to have. A lot of people ask me, "How do you have peace, like going through all this stuff?" Because it's the unwillingness to actually. Sorry, I take it back. It's the willingness for me to get unstuck. That willingness to get unstuck. Take a first step. Seek for help. Talk to people. America can kill you mentally. You might be there like a zombie. Everything that's going on, especially in time crisis right now for us immigrants, for us, especially the Kenyan community, and other migrants, and also the people who are residents right here and citizens and all that stuff. Everything is crazy right now. It's just, take that first step. The road wasn't easy for me, and there was plenty of times I thought I couldn't be anymore. Still sometimes when I feel like, oof, can make it anymore. We are human beings. I have had setbacks. I still do. I have had relapses. And that's the worst when you have a relapse and you're like doing so good and then you start over. But starting over is just, joy comes in the morning. So I've stumbled. I've found myself that when I stumble, I remind myself that failing doesn't make you a failure. Okay? It's about getting up every single time. God damn it, every single time waking up. You gotta wake up. So, and as I started to understand myself better, I began to heal. I'm still in the process of healing. A lot of people say, oh, they identify as addicts. For me, I don't like that word because that's a label and that's stigma. I like to identify myself as a person living in recovery. So I am in recovery. I like to identify myself as person who lives in recovery and I still make mistakes. I am not perfect. I'm just like you. You might even be better than me. I don't know. But to control what you can control and don't let your mind dictate your life. And it's the small victories for me that matter. I've learned how to ask for help. I've learned how to forgive myself and others. I've learned that I am still on that road of winning, still figuring it out day by day. So we are together in this. But I've come to understand that real strength comes from the struggle. The things that once seems like obstacles for me, the things that seems like obstacles for me, like, are now my small stepping stones. Okay. So I've built a new version of myself. That doesn't mean that I still don't have the old version. I still have to learn from that. You know what I'm saying? So if there is one thing that I know of myself that knows the power of resilience, that knows it's not okay to have everything all together. It's not going to happen overnight. This, for me, why I'm doing this podcast is like, I don't know, a lot of people out there may need this. They just don't know who to go to. Like I always say, send me DMs on my Instagram, Gronkjaer27. Let me know what you would like to hear, what you'd like to talk about. Okay. So I want to leave you with this today. There is one thing I want you to take away from what I said today is that you are not defined by your lowest moments. I repeat, you are not defined by your lowest moments. You are not defined by your struggles or your setbacks. You are defined by your ability. Defined by keep going. You gotta keep going. Even when everything inside of you says to give up. Don't give up. Life is about falling, but getting back up from each fall and believing that even in the darkest moments, you can find your way into the light. Okay? So, like I said, this is your boy Gronk. Thank you so much for listening to this today podcast. I know it's a little bit longer than usual, but thank you again for listening to my story from struggle to strength. If my story resonated with you, I encourage you to take that first step, no matter what. towards your own journey of healing and resilience. You are not alone. You are not alone. Like I always say, inspire before we expire. Today is a good day for a good day. Be humble, be kind, be loving, be thankful. You are happy. Thank you so much for listening and taking time to listen to this. All right. Guys, say send me information what you would like me to talk about, or what you would love to hear, or what you would love to see us grow this podcast. This is your boy Gronkjaer 27, Inspire Resilience Podcast. Thank you. Have a good day.